in certain challenges with respect to governance. We have seen certain challenges with respect to governance. Then we have seen certain tools to reinforce the good governance principles. And as part of tools to reinforce good governance principles, we have seen the first tool was RTL. RTL. Now, with respect to your good governance principles, we had Pierre-Cart. Pierre-Cart as the mnemonic for all the principles. Pierre-Cart: participation, efficiency, effectiveness, responsive, citizen-centric, accountable, transparent, and rule of law. Pierre-Cart. Now, as part of your tools with respect to the maintaining of your good governance principles, the next one is Citizen Charter. Citizen Charter. Now, as part of this Citizen Charter, we'll basically see what is the definition. We'll see what is the definition. Then we'll see the origin or certain basics of this. Then we'll see what are the issues and what are the measures. We'll see what are the issues and we'll see what are the measures. What is Citizen Charter? What is a Citizen Charter?
Charter is a set of rules or
Charter is a set of rules, framework.
maybe community guidelines.
Now, when you look at Citizen Charter, it is a framework. Basically, it deals with the service delivery framework. It deals with the service delivery framework or public service delivery framework. And what your Citizen Charter constitutes is it basically talks about the nature of service. Basically talks about the nature of service, the time period, the nature of service, the time period, and the grievance mechanism. So it is that document which provides a public service delivery framework and constitutes the components like nature of service, the time period, and the public grievance mechanism. The document which basically provides the framework that is centered around your nature of service, your time period, or grievance, you call it as Citizen Charter. Because when you look at Citizen Charter, the purpose or the genesis of Citizen Charter was basically to increase the awareness among people. First thing, increase the awareness among the people with respect to what kind of service or what is the nature of service they can avail to. First. Then second purpose of Citizen Charter is, it is to kind of intimate to the or indicate to the public authorities. It is a kind of indication or it is to indicate the public authorities in order to what kind of service has to be rendered to the public. And not only what kind of service, but it also ensures what is the time period that is available for you to render a particular service. Now it indicates to the citizens. Now if that time period of service is not met by or is not followed by the public authorities, then what is the channel of your public grievance? In some systems it is your appeal mechanisms. In some systems it is your grievance mechanisms. So your Citizen Charter not only gives you the nature not only gives you the time period, but it also gives an information regarding the public grievance channel that is available if these two are not met by the public servants. And when you look at this citizen charter, it is not enforceable in nature. It is not enforceable in nature, it is indicative in nature, it is recommendatory in nature, it is not enforceable.
So regarding public authorities, you said something, right?
What?
The citizen charter makes the public authorities aware of what they should be doing.
Yeah. It indicates to them what kind of service they need to do and what kind of service citizens can get. What time period? And if these two conditions are not met, what citizen can do to the public authority. But one inherent drawback of citizen charter is it is not enforceable. You give a set of rules, it says, if we wish, we will follow. Now you go to any public office and ask, where is your citizen charter? And citizen charter will be the dirtiest place present ever in that particular office. I think it will be generally framed. Your citizen charter will be generally framed, photo framed, and it will be hung. Nobody will clean it. You just observe. Go to bank, go to any office. Police stations, some police stations will not know where is their citizen charter. We'll see when we look at the issues with respect to citizen charter, we'll see that it is all a cut, copy, paste business. Okay. So this is basics about citizen charter. Now when you look at its origin, it is basically with respect to UK. It is basically with respect to UK and your mature democracies to an extent. Your mature democracies to an extent. UK was the genesis. Then you have, from then on, it spread on to different countries. But there is only one country where your citizen charter is enforceable, that is your Malaysia. It is only in Malaysia where you have your citizen charter which is enforceable. Now as a case study, you can write it in your answer when you are writing on citizen charter. That you have an enforceable nature of citizen charter when it comes to Malaysia. You can write it as a way forward also.
Isn't it enforceable in UK itself?
Huh?
Isn't it enforceable in UK?
No. It is not. See, one thing you are supposed to remember, that tools or frameworks like this, like citizen charter, they are business of mature democracies. And India is not a mature democracy.
But UK,
UK is, but India is not.
but how isn't it enforceable even?
That's why we should not emulate what mature democracies emulate. We forget to notice that. Because when you look at the Indian nature of democracy, it is mostly the procedural democracy. But when you look at a particular country to be a mature democracy, it is not only your procedural democracy, but you also need to have your substantive democracy. I think the other day I talked about procedural and substantive democracy. Substantive democracy is such kind of democracy where you ensure all kinds of justice, all levels of equality, all levels of participation, resources and opportunities. Now when you are not able to ensure the levels of justice or levels of equality with respect to the participation, resources and opportunities, and just restrict the meaning or literal meaning of democracy to voting process or to election process, then you call it as procedural democracy. So we are still a procedural democracy, we are yet to become a substantive democracy. And with an optimistic lens, we can say we are transcending from procedural to substantive. Now, unless and until you are substantive along with your procedural, you cannot be a mature democracy. Now, tools like this are meant for mature democracy. But India is not mature enough. But our constitutional forefathers have envisioned a mature democracy. That is the reason why they have brought in or why they have gone for citizen charter. But there are some states who generally impose this citizen charter in a serious manner. One example is Karnataka. They have a citizen report card. They have a citizen report card. Especially a Bangalore municipality has this citizen report card.
So what does the citizen report card do?
What citizen charter does, that's it. It basically enforces. Now it will give you marks.
This is enforceable in nature.
I'll say implicitly enforceable. I'll not say direct enforcement, but implicitly enforceable. It'll give you marks. Now automatically when you're getting less marks, don't you think there is a kind of inherent imposition or sanction kind of thing is being imposed on you?
Marks in the sense, I mean, within the Bangalore city there will be different areas.
Different departments.
Oh.
And based on the citizen satisfaction, you get the report card. Or one department will have a report card. It says your performance is this, you have got 86%. So pass. Police department will get minus 20%. Because they don't function. They don't function.
Okay, what happens if they don't function?
What happens if they
Course
don't
correction.
function? Course correction in the sense, it will be a kind of embarrassment. Embarrassment. Now, why do you think people struggle to get first rank in Swachh Sarvekshan Abhiyan or Swachh Sarvekshan scheme?
Flows. FDA flows will be there.
FDA
CPS
flows?
will be there.
Huh?
Like clearance will be there. For
Apart from clearance, apart from this, it has a tourist potential. Now, you don't get much funds with respect to if you're a first ranking place or if you're a second ranking place when it comes to your Swachh Sarvekshan. But it is only that it will have tourist potential. That is an intangible benefit in which they'll realize their ranking. Okay. Now a similar kind of imposition is imposed with respect to these citizen report cards. Okay. Now when you look at the issues of citizen charter, when you look at the issues of citizen charter, tell me what are the issues? Not enforceable. Then, or just mere recommendatory in nature. Then,
Not much recognized.
not recognized. We can say not aware. Then, can I say obsolete? Some departments will have citizen charter which is made in 1990s or 1980s. Do you think the degree of service delivery or the demand for service delivery is same? Or the kind of services that are to be delivered to the citizen, are they same?
But then they can be revised.
They don't revise. They don't revise, they are still like that.
Neglected.
That's why we call them as obsolete. Then the other one is language barrier. All the departments are English professors. Because all of the citizen charters are in English. Hardly you would find any local language with respect to citizen charter. So that is an issue. Then
public places like public outlook, it is not visible to the public actually. All the people cannot actually people even don't know first thing awareness.
so that is awareness.
And also it's not posted in the public places.
Not in a visible way.
Like if at
Not
all there
in a
is
visible.
some scheme, so there will be wall posters. Like if at all there is a government scheme on the bus stops,
Hmm.
public places, there will be a display of it. But when coming to these,
Maybe it comes in a
There is no such thing. Like from the political will and also institutional will to make the people aware that these are the things which are available.
All these are part of not aware, not being aware only. Not being aware, or maybe administrative lethargy, you can say, to a certain extent.
So for not awareness, in the sense, first they must understand at least there are certain charter which is present. Right?
In order for them to understand, you need awareness.
The transparency will be increased.
Hmm?
Transparency.
With respect to?
Like, service sectors are not being transparent to people, so they are not concentrating more on this sector.
So how it is an issue with respect to citizen charter? Any other issues? Not enforceable, not aware, obsolete, language barrier. Then? The issue of one size fits all approach. The citizen charter of police department is a citizen charter in bank. Will it be same? Or a citizen charter of a bank in an urban area is same that of citizen charter of a bank in rural area. Is that same? No. Because the demand of service will vary, the degree of service will vary, the nature of service will vary, the time period that is required for you to serve will vary. Because of certain connectivity issues, don't you think the time period of service delivery in rural areas will be more? So this one size fits all approach is a concern with respect to your citizen charter. Any other issue? Any other issue?
Sir, is this mandatory to keep in this charter in every institution? Is it mandatory?
It is mandatory.
Then there should be a body to check whether they are.
Very good. The monitoring or appraisal systems. I was looking for this from this point onwards. I think the third or fourth point I was expecting this. Huh? It's an issue. Lack of monitoring or appraisal mechanisms. These are certain issues.
Sir, if it is not enforceable, then how it be an issue? Monitoring and appraisal. If it is not enforceable, then how would this be an issue?
Which one?
You can
Monitoring and appraisal.
You can monitor whether it is present or not.
So its presence is mandatory.
Its presence is mandatory. Its presence is mandatory, but abiding by it is not mandatory.
Yes.
Right? Now, what are the measures? What are the measures? Not enforceable, make it enforceable. Yeah. That's how we write solutions. In exam also, my dear, it's not a joke. It's only that we'll give one or two examples somewhere. Now, you're not aware,
Create
So if it is-
create awareness.
If it is enforceable, then there are huge section of people which need to be to whom services need to be delivered.
Yes.
So government has limited resources and it cannot deliver services.
Nothing like that. It's not the logic of DPSP.
Even the DPSP also has the same problem.
Why is that institution being created as such?
But to deliver the services, but it cannot deliver in such a large extent, such that every people can ping it in the code.
I'll tell you one example. Say, for example, we are talking about citizen charter in a police station. Right? Police station. Now we are making it enforceable. Okay. Now we cannot say just because crimes are increasing, we cannot burden the police station by enforcing citizen charter. Can we say? When you look at any organization The purpose of organization is smooth public service delivery and efficient public service delivery and effective public service delivery. Now, the issue of funds generally arises in India because of our budgetary practices. So, because of budgetary practices, you cannot stop from making a particular thing enforceable because it will increase the resource burden. Yes. Now, when you look at DPSP as a clause and when you look at the Constituent Assembly debates, the logic behind them not being enforced was, one is resource crunch. But one thing you are supposed to understand, the ambit of operation of DPSP was completely in the hands of government. But whereas when you look at here, every organization has a specific mandate and they are created for that purpose. So there is no sort of burdening that organization or there is no sort of resource burdening. Right?
So even but in that case, it will say Article 32 itself. When Supreme Court is the highest appellate
Article 32, your DPSP are very broad terms. Your citizen charter is restricted to one small room. Please remember. Your bank is one small room. Your police station is one small room. When you talk about constitution, it is administering all 137 crore people. Those who are going to be born also it will administer. Those who have died also have administered. It's a very broader thing. You cannot compare just because of its certain inherent features being common. They are very different. Awareness, spread awareness, awareness campaigns, or something called as social role modeling. What is wrong with respect to bringing celebrities and advertising about the concept of citizen charter? They can do that. They can absolutely do that. Yes. Because don't you think it will somehow increase the accountability mechanism? That is what is meant by social role modeling. Now, why can't they create an advertisement where a celebrity enters a bank or a police station and directly goes to citizen charter? And he is watching it or he is seeing it. So it basically spreads awareness with respect to that there is something called a citizen charter that is present. How many of us have seen citizen charter in its true form? No. Why? As you go and ask the employee who has joined in that particular organization, "Arey babu, citizen charter ekkada undi chupichu" ante. Sir, application లేదు సార్ మా దగ్గర. That will be the status, right? Then when you look at this obsolete nature, don't you think you need dynamism? Dynamism with respect to changing nature of the service delivery mandate. That means you are making your citizen charter more dynamic. Now, language barrier, local languages. You can go for bilingual or local languages in themselves. Because anyway, in most of the state services, you will anyway have your local language as qualifying paper. Right? Then when you talk about one size fits all, we can talk about customization of citizen charter. Customization. Right? Now, monitoring and appraisal. Create periodic reviews. Performance based incentives. Maybe you can create such a mechanism where you can give an award to that company or to that organization which is implementing its citizen charter. Performance based incentives. Right? So this is all about citizen charter. What is the way forward? These are measures that are to be taken. What is the way forward?
So even without these people are availing services, right?
That will anyway, they'll anyway avail.
So what is the main essence of bringing this into the role actually? Without even this, they are allowing all the services like public grievance mechanism is present.
Without this, they have to pay to avail the services sometimes. With this, we can
Pay to
have.
Depends when
What we started this topic as? What we started this topic as?
provide public services.
Basically, tool to ensure
Nature of service time.
public service delivery, tool to ensure good governance mechanism.
Exactly.
Yes. Now, basically, you go there. Once you visit government office, take an application, give him. He'll say, "We'll not do this. Karcha itna."
Okay. Yeah.
Now, when he refers his citizen charter, he says, "Arey babu, you're supposed to do this."
Okay.
But it is not enforceable.
It is not enforceable. That is a secondary thing. That is why we are telling it as let it be enforceable. Now, please remember, in all three or hierarchy of your bureaucracy, everybody will not be an idiot. That is for sure. You will have one or the other authority who is little accountable, who is little ethical in his approach. Now, why do you think there is a lot of bureaucratic delay in any of the processes, especially with respect to land acquisitions? Now, one way forward is imbibe this habit of cross-checking this citizen charter as part of their training modules. Or highlight the importance of citizen charter in the training modules or in their training curriculum. Now, when you highlight its importance in the training curriculum, don't you think at least then they'll realize
At least offers themselves.
it has some importance in the life of citizens, or it has some importance in the supply chain of service delivery mechanism. Is this clear? So this is all about citizen charter. And we'll finish social audit also. Social audit. What is social audit?
Auditing
How the
government expenses.
how the funds are being utilized for the allotted scheme or for the purpose for which they are allotted actually.
By whom? By whom?
There is some
People.
By people. By people. Now, social audit basically means that you are going to audit the performance of a particular public functionary. That means you are basically giving an inherent tool of holding a public functionary accountable. To whom you are giving this tool? To public. Now, this concept of social audit has a legal backing with respect to your Manrega Act 2005. MG Narega Act. Narega Act 2005.
I don't get it. How is it Narega related to social audit?
Yes, you have a legal backing, Section 8.
Narega is employment guarantee, right? And
Yes.
this is social audit.
What happens in Narega?
The government provides you either employment and if it
How?
give you
How? In what form?
uh,
What is the nature of employment?
unskilled employment.
Unskilled?
Yes, sir.
Unskilled? Yes. And what is the general nature of Manrega? I mean, nature of work is unskilled. What kind of works they indulge in?
Capital, maybe creating capital assets or something.
Yes.
Construction.
Construction. Construction.
Yes.
Now, for example, you are digging a pond in a village. Now you take people from Manrega and you employ them. Fine. Now, when you employ them, now you are supposed to get wages for it. You're supposed to get wages. Now, how do you think they're going to get wages?
Jam, like it will be deposited into the bank.
No. Now you will have a public functionary who is in charge of looking up after that pond. What is the status of that pond? Whether they are digging at correct depth or correct breadth. Yes. Now, in order to improve the transparency mechanism or accountability mechanism in Manrega, they have imbibed technology. For example, your GIS and GPS systems, especially your GIS system, and also MIS, Management Information Systems. Now with GIS, what is happening is, or what they do is, they do geotagging. They geotag the pond they have dug. They said, "Arey Babu, we have finished whatever pond you have given with length and breadth of so much." Now once that geotagging of that particular asset which has been created is done, and necessary funds are allocated. Necessary funds are allocated. Now necessary funds are allocated to a public functionary and he is the one who is going to distribute wages. Now he has eaten wages of 10 people. Eaten wages of 10 people. Say for example. Now what your Narega Act 2005 says is under Section 8. It says you have a provision of conducting social audit. Now here when you have a provision of conducting social audit, don't you think it's a kind of double accountability mechanism that you are creating on the public functionary? Now you can question the person who is looking after this project, first thing. Then second thing, you can look after or you can question the person who is sanctioning the project. Yes or no? That is what is meant by social audit in Manrega. Basically, your NREGS Act 2005 gives a legal backing for your social audit. Now, social audit is one of the social accountability mechanisms. Is it clear? Now, what is the need? What is the need?
Appropriation of funds.
Appropriation of funds. Okay.
I think red tape is
Huh?
what bureaucratic inertia might lead to.
No. All your good governance principles. Whatever the principles of good governance becomes the relevance of social audit or need for social audit. Apart from your good governance, you can even include your financial optimization or financial or fiscal discipline. Fiscal discipline. Fiscal discipline. Yes. Good governance, fiscal discipline. Then optimization of resources. Optimization of resources.
Who will do actually in social audit?
Huh?
Who will do social audit?
People.
Like I was in office actually, so a scheme was implemented by the government. So,
Which
from
office?
it was actually collectorate, sir. It was
Okay.
collectorate and it was BC corporation.
Okay.
So, under some, like, there was scheme, there are many schemes for BC scheme in the Andhra. So, one scheme was implemented. So, actually, the minister of the concerned department has sent some officials, his private officials, to verify the same, whether they are allocated correctly or not.
Hmm.
And what they stated was they were coming from social audit actually. And the reviewing was done and they certified something and they checked all the things.
You yourself said, no?
Sir?
Collectors, private members. Your private members basically mean public people. They would have been representatives from people.
But who knows, sir? Collector.
That goes on. That we should not talk. We should not talk.
Loopholes. Loopholes.
Loopholes. That will be there. For us, it's all theory. Let's see about implementations. Yes. That's a loophole. There will be number of loopholes. Now, governmental rules and regulations are meant to have loopholes. Then only government will sustain. Please remember. Otherwise, nobody will have greed for power, especially politics. The incentive for politics is behind legal loopholes. Now, if everything is correct, if every system is correct, nobody will go for politics except some people like Jayaprakash Narayan like this. Right? And what are the issues with respect to social audit? Issues with respect to social audit? What are the issues with respect to social audit?
Corruption.
Huh?
Corruption.
Think little basic.
Technical issues. People don't know technical.
Awareness. 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 Next. One is awareness.
Implementing.
Then again, non-enforceable. Because say after social audit they have submitted a report and you don't know where the report is. It can so happen that when you are going to buy bhajis, one of the papers of that report can appear. You never know. Because one of the inherent drawback of social audit is there is no feedback mechanism. Now with lot of difficulty, with lot of opportunity cost, they would have gone and they have undertaken the social audit mechanism and they would have prepared a very beautiful report, and if that is implemented, there will be necessary governance reforms. But what is the inherent drawback is there is no feedback mechanism. There is no feedback mechanism, there is no tracing mechanism with respect to what is the position of implementation about the observations they have made in that particular report. Now what is there? We'll make 100 observations, we'll send a report, nobody is acting on it. Then don't you think the whole purpose or whole objective or whole motto of your social audit into gutters or in vain? Yes or no? So non-enforceability is one, and absence of feedback mechanism. Absence of feedback mechanism. Yes? Then? What is the third issue or fourth issue?
So what happens in case of the conflicting reports?
That is your fifth point. We'll see. Fifth point. Consensus building or politicization of process. Politicization of process or factionalism.
So the whom to approach and where to approach is not mentioned.
Of what?
When we want to social audit something, so there must be.
They'll call like Gram Panchayat or Gram Sabha. They'll say, come, let's evaluate this. I was looking for one more point. Oh, I think even I forgot. I was looking for one more point. Before this consensus building. One point, yes. Lack of access to records. Now, when you want to evaluate a particular project or a particular thing, don't you think you need basic data on it? Don't you think you need basic data on it? Now, when you approach the officer or when the Gram Sarpanch approaches the officer, sir, we need that record. Give us, we want to evaluate. He says, no, I'm not going to give you. Or there is a lot of resistance with respect to allowing the public to access the records. So one more issue with respect to social audit is there is no mechanism that is created in order to look into the ease of accessibility with respect to the records on which they are going to audit. Right? So this is fourth issue. The fifth issue is consensus building, politicization of process or factionalism. There will be one faction who is supported by one person. There is other faction who is supported by another person. Now this faction will say, no, that fellow is doing very well. This faction will say, no, he is doing horrible things. No, there is no consensus. There is no consensus. The sixth issue is opportunity cost. The sixth issue is opportunity cost. What happens with respect to opportunity cost is, now they want to evaluate. That means they have to assemble for, say they have called for Gram Sabha meeting. Now what person feels is, as process of social audit, he feels it as a process in which he loses his wage. Because most of the rural people or most of your agriculturists, they believe or they work on daily wage basis. Daily wage basis. That means today if there is social audit, he goes, that means his wage is lost. Now for elections, it's a different business. At least he gets 1 quarter and 1 biryani at the end of the day. But for social audit, what is he going to get? Babaji Katullu. Nothing he is going to get. Because it is not very sure whether if he is going to lose his wage and come and sit in the process of social audit, and after making a detailed report and after making a detailed evaluation and criticism with respect to the whatever kind of public service delivery activity that has been undertaken, there is no certainty whether whatever changes they have suggested will be implemented. Now, do you think that an uncertainty will have any incentive for this person to leave his job or leave his wage and come at an opportunity cost? No. Certainly not. Now, because of this perception of high opportunity cost with respect to the rural people, what will happen to the inherent participation of social audit mechanism? It will fall, automatically fall. The inherent mechanism with respect to the social audit is going to fall. Certain issues with respect to social audit. Now, if you know the process of social audit, I think these issues automatically flows. Don't you think so? Yes. Now, awareness part is very clear, enforceable, lack of access to records, then consensus building, then opportunity cost. Basically, you need to be aware about the practical conditions of the rural people. Then you can inherently or eloquently talk about the issues of social audit. Right? Now, what is the way forward for this? What is the way forward? You basically spread awareness campaign. Now there is one awareness campaign which is undertaken by Ministry of Rural Development. Refer once. Ministry of Rural Development undertakes a campaign with respect to spreading awareness on social audit. Make it enforceable, or at least create a formalized feedback mechanism. Create a formalized feedback mechanism. Now, once you are able to create a formalized feedback mechanism, don't you think it is going to incentivize the person to participate and person to not perceive that participation in the process of social audit as an opportunity cost? Because he is very sure, because of the participatory nature of social audit, he is very sure that even if I go and ask him, if there is a formal feedback mechanism, even if I go and ask, he says, "Arey Babu, your report is in this stage." Or the actions on your report, on your observations, on your monitorings are in this stage. Yes or no? Don't you think this kind of strong or robust feedback mechanism, it is going to certainly incentivize the participation? So whatever kind of feedback mechanism you are going to ensure, it is automatically going to be a solution for your increased participation, or make the rural people not perceive that the process of social audit is a opportunity cost. Then what about lack of access to records?
Like comparing it with Aadhaar. Using a social audit
Technology.
Technology is one, okay. RTI is other, okay. Now in RTI also we have seen one issue is awareness. Yes. Can I create a cadre of officers for social audits?
Technically, this is always.
Huh?
Why? I mean, we want minimum government and maximum governance.
But
We can
we,
just make all the records public in the first place.
you cannot. Cannot. Because one of the inherent drawbacks with respect to record keepings is we don't have a record management system.
So like if you visit a place, there will be a feedback in Google. Like that we can keep a portal for that. So that there is no need to go to any office room for that feedback. We can use it automatically by opening the app. We can see the feedbacks and we can see
Digitizing the records.
Digitizing the records. See, one thing you're supposed to remember is whatever kind of social audit we are operating in rural areas. Now, when you're operating it in rural areas, one fine morning you cannot digitize it. You need to basically ensure a hand-holding mechanism. Hand-holding mechanism. Just like your CBI, CVC, or like your auditing CAG, create a cadre of officers with respect to social audit or social audit officers. Or for that case, social audit correspondents, not officers if you want. Don't you think this concept of social audit correspondents are going to increase even, or it is going to formalize even the employment? No, you keep social audit correspondents, or the criteria for social audit correspondent is he has to be a rural youth from that particular region. Yes or no? Now you have multiple departments. Now under one social audit correspondent, bring at least 4 to 5 departments. Now if there is any social audit that has to be undertaken, and if people call for any kind of social audit in any of those 5 departments, then it is the inherent responsibility of the social audit correspondent to bring all the records. Yes or no?
But even keeping a person wouldn't suffice because it is up to his discretion, or he may even fall in excess with the institution.
He has nothing to do in the process. He has to just get the records.
Yes, sir, but he may bring those records which are not in favor of the social audit.
See, one thing when we are talking about governance mechanism, we need to remember that Fiduciary trust is a basic element. Now, unless and until you believe and trust, you cannot have a government mechanism altogether. See, just because in India you have corruption, just because you have nexus, it does not mean every organization is a wrong organization. If that is the case, then you need to say all of your watchdogs are supposed to be sold off by now. And there is no purpose for us to sit here. Because UPSC being watchdog of merit, it also should have been sold off. Every year 700, 800 posts. It is like Tatkal system. Once notification comes, book. Why are you sitting here? It's with a trust.
That
It is going to uphold merit. That is supposed to be there, and that has to be there. At least to sleep peacefully at night. Because unless and until you trust police, unless and until you trust army as an organization in protecting and ensuring the security of the nation, you cannot have a peaceful night. Right? So social audit correspondence can be one solution with respect to lack of access to records. Then what about consensus building?
will he be elected person? Sir?
No.
Who will appoint him? Like if at all in the way forward, you want to appoint someone as social audit correspondent, who will appoint him?
Who will appoint it? Maybe the district collector, maybe the executive aspect only. Aramaya. గేట్కి రామయ్య. సరే నేను 5కి తీసుకుంటాను, నాకు మళ్ళీ 5కి ఒక పని ఉంది. సరే. So consensus building or politicization of process or factionalism. Now what can be the solution for this or measure for this? What can you do?
Blockchain technology.
Blockchain technology.
The feedback mechanism.
Feedback mechanism will help.
Both those things, like where it is going, where it is in the process.
No, but consensus building is something different.
Talking to the second part, politicization of the process.
Politicization, consensus building, factionalism, all three are interrelated. Nothing to do with feedback. Any measure? Think. Now just imagine this is your case study in ethics. Now you are supposed to derive a solution or suggest a solution for this. Now tell me.
Making the reports public and then auditing those reports. I mean, asking people to audit the reports.
Means?
I mean, there'll be
Cross-checking.
conflicts in the statements, right? So I'll just put all those records in public itself, and then people can check for themselves.
Transparency.
Transparency. I mean, I'll follow one of those best reports, whatever I feel, but then I'll keep all those reports open. Of them, people will compare among themselves, okay, which report is best, and then with my discretion, I'll pick which one is the best and then go follow.
But here we are talking about going along, no? We have to take everybody along.
Can we keep small committees, like which are like few from the stakeholder approach, few from the society, few from the government, some technical person who can review the same.
Any other?
Then bring them together to discuss okay, what went wrong.
Very simple solution. Negotiate. Discuss, debate before the process of social audit. Before the process of social audit.
Before the process.
Yes.
So without-
Because, for example, you call for an all representative meeting. Now, when you call for an all representative meeting, that means every section or every faction will have one representative. Now, whatever that representative's perspective is, that perspective is going to be the perspective of that faction also. Yes. Yes. Now, every village will have a panchayat head, right? Now, he is going to head that all representative meeting. Just an example. Now, every representative from every faction is going to put forth his apprehensions. Yes. Now, when they put forth their apprehensions, the representatives will discuss, debate, and argue over those apprehensions, over whatever interests. Then here the moderator work is being done by that panchayat head. In the arena of social audit. Now, at the end of the day, don't you think every representative of the faction or every person of the faction are part of public at the end of the day? And are part of the public and who are supposed to unite and audit the officer who is looking into implementation of their public service delivery? Yes or no? Now, it is only that there is certain mismatch of interests. But at the end of the day, everybody wants to audit their officer. So, before entering the arena of social audit, why can't we have an all representative meeting? All representative meeting so that all the apprehensions are discussed, debated, argued, and they'll come to a pre-social audit consensus. And when the day of social audit arrives, then they enter the arena and unanimously vote, because they have discussed, debated, argued, and they have negotiated upon whatever is the course of action post social audit. And that confidence building mechanism or that process of confidence building mechanism is going to be undertaken by that panchayat head. Arey Babu, don't worry, we'll look into it after your social audit. Don't worry, that's a very small issue. Anyway, with this only it will get covered. So he is the one who is going to build the confidence among different factions. So all representative meeting, or like how we have the performance incentives or performance based incentives. Can't we incentivize villages with respect to the performance of social audits? That's your way forward. Can't we incentivize the mechanism of social audit that has to be followed by a village? Can't we bring in a social audit index? Can't we bring in a social audit report? Can't we bring in a branch or a department of social audit under Ministry of Rural Development? This is all way forward, far-fetched. Now, because when you look at social audit, don't you think it becomes the bloodline for the rural governance? It has that potential of becoming a bloodline for the rural governance. Now, when it has such a potential and when you are having Department of Rural Development or Ministry of Rural Development, why can't you have a separate wing for social audit? Because it is going to revolutionize. It is going to revolutionize your rural governance as an aspect, and it is also going to revolutionize your democratic decentralization objectives that are to be realized as part of your 73rd Constitutional Amendment. Don't you think so? Yes. This is all about social audit. Any doubts in this? Right? Next is SHG. SHG. Self-help groups. Under self-help group, we are going to see the definition. We are going to see the features. We are going to see the relevance, issues, and way forward. See, for your governance, this is more than sufficient. More than sufficient. Whatever dimensions I am covering with respect to governance, if you are aware of it, more than sufficient. Because governance is one section where they'll try to go for an applied way of asking a question, but the answer is one and the same. This year, please refer, they had asked a question on SHG, but the answer is same. But the answer is same. Temperature increased.
It's 24.
24. Make it 26. 26, 27. Right? So answer is one and the same in your governance. Although the question will appear very difficult, you just need to understand and boil down the question into whether they are asking the relevance of it, they are asking the issues of it, or are they asking for suggestions. That's it. They are asking for suggestions or they are not asking for suggestions, you are supposed to write suggestions. So you just need to look into the question whether they are asking for relevance of it or they are asking for issues or challenges in it. That's it, only two components. Only two components. Now when you look at SHG, what is SHG? Define SHG.
Group of people with common aspirations.
Group of people with
Some objectives or for a particular thing they come together to help each other.
to help each other.
Group of people with common interests come together to work for a greater good.
For work for a greater good. Okay.
And also pool their funds.
And also pool their
Funds and also with certain objective and purpose. To
certain
achieve
objective
the
and purpose,
common aspiration to achieve that.
common aspirations. Now when you look at SHG, the first thing you're supposed to remember is it is a voluntary organization. Where people come together on their own. It is a voluntary organization. First thing. Then, apart from it being a voluntary organization, the people of that organization have similar socio-economic characteristics. The people of that particular organization have similar socio-economic characteristics. You have similar socio-economic characteristics. The third, they have convergence of objectives. They have convergence of objectives. They have convergence of objectives. And they have a minimum size of 15 to 20 members. So SHG is that kind of voluntary organization SHG is that kind of voluntary organization which has a similar kind of, or which constitutes people of similar socio-economic characteristics with convergence of objectives and a size of 15 to 20 members. This is very comprehensive definition of SHG. Now what are the features of SHG? These are only the features. These are only the features of SHG. Now when they are asking you specifically the features of SHG, write it in point format. 4 points, enough. More than sufficient. When they are asking you normal SHG definition, then write it in paragraph format. That's it. Now what is the relevance? What is the relevance of SHG?
Providing income security, employment security.
Start. I mean,
Increasing opportunities to everyone.
What is the thing I told you when you're writing an answer?
Structure and organ.
Structure. Relevance? Yes. Social, economic,
Political.
ethical, political. Now when it comes to the social relevance of SHG, don't you think women is one section which is going to be benefited? Women empowerment, upliftment of women. Then impact on marginal sections.
So there is a concept like women empowerment to women-led empowerment. So we also discussed that in society. Like
Which part?
Governance part.
Which?
Women empowerment to women-led empowerment.
That is nothing to discuss there. It is just a phrase. Just a phrase. Where women empowerment, generally we have seen women empowerment as a process of different stakeholders. But they basically mean by women-led empowerment is women are basically an inherent cause for women empowerment. Women empowerment basically means for women, by women, with women. That's it. Then certain marginal sections would have certain advantage, or they have social solidarity. Certain marginal sections will have social solidarity. Yes? Now don't you think these becomes the creators, or they enable construction or increased access to basic needs?
Reservation of cultural practice.
No, social needs, basic needs. For example, they can start building tanks or agricultural ponds or some school or some health facility. Right? Now they can be an institution or an organization of social inclusion. They can be an organization of social inclusion. Now when you talk about economy, it basically provides for financial autonomy or access to credit. Employment opportunities. Access to credit, financial autonomy, or occupational diversity. Or an habit of thrift or savings. What is paradox of thrift in your economy?
Savings.
Basic NCERT.
Liquidity card.
No.
That one.
Paradox of thrift. Huh? What is paradox of thrift? Go and refer 12th standard macroeconomy today. Refer 12th standard macroeconomics textbook. Paradox of thrift. One is paradox of thrift, and the second thing you're supposed to refer is Ricardian equivalence. Ricardian equivalence. Please go and refer. Now these two words will appear that only economic optional fellow can write, or he can answer, but they are part of your 12th standard macroeconomics textbook.
What's the second one? Ricardian.
Equivalence. Ricardo. Ricardo is an economist. Ricardian equivalence. Refer. Okay. So it basically imbibes the saving culture. Then what is the ethical feeling of empowerment? Feeling of empowerment, right? High spirits.
Independence.
Feeling of independence. Then political, exercise their rights. Then increased political representations. Increased political representations. Yes. Now, what are the issues with respect to SHGs? What are the issues?
Not formal.
Very good. Informal organizations. High spirits. What are the other issues? One is informal organization, then
In marketing sense, there is no huge
There may be losses.
financial literacy. Financial literacy. Financial literacy. Informal organization, financial literacy. Any other issues of SHGs?
Trust.
Trust in the sense?
Among
By giving the
the
credit, they may.
Inter-community conflicts. You might get a doubt that they'll not form SHG then,
performance.
after forming.
Within the SHG.
The government will recognize SSGs, right?
They can, under trust or society. Societies Act 1860.
And also they will be providing some schemes to for them to avail.
Hmm?
If at all there are these many people, so financial credit will be provided to the same
Financial credit.
to the SSGs.
SHG bank linkage program. SHG bank linkage program. Then what are the issues with respect to SHGs? Informal financial literacy, conflicts.
And also, who knows whether they are taking credit for startups as a personal use. Here.
Patriarchy. Social hindrances.
Oh, sir.
Hmm?
they should allow you to provide work for
Now, whatever money you are saving, for example, say Women X is saving some money as part of SHG, then Her husband comes in the night, beats her, and takes off money for drinking. Classic example. Now, when you are not able to provide that margin money, she cannot become part of SHG. Yes.
అది కూడా patriarchy.
కొట్టడం patriarchy కాదా? No husband beats his wife out of love. Please remember. And vice versa. Informal financial literacy conflicts patriarchal or patriarchy. Then what other issue you have with respect to SHGs? Market intelligence. Market intelligence or information asymmetry. Tell me what?
Doesn't it come under financial literacy? I mean, basically business management.
That's a different thing. Financial literacy with respect to, if I talk about managing my credit, if I talk about managing my savings, then that is what is financial literacy. Like, what will be my investment levels? How will my investment levels vary? So that kind of break-even point, when will I attain break-even point, that will be different. But when you talk about market intelligence or information asymmetry, it is basically there is an inherent shortage of availability of data. For example, say there is an SHG which is producing, say, some sweets. Some say SHG's name, Mithai is the SHG's name. Now it is producing some sweets. Now on the competition side, you have your Emerald producing sweets. Emerald sweets. Very costly sweets and very famous, I think. Organic. Huh? Organic, I think. Huh? Only heard about it. Whenever results come, I used to be a very regular visitor to it. Not during success. During failure. Once my post result, one compulsory visit used to be to Emerald. Yeah, I think 18 result. I think towards the end of 18 only I came here. And in 18, I think I had 3 consecutive failures. One was Group 1 services, interview, post-interview, then assistant commandant post-interview, civil services post-interview. Yeah. So I think I visited thrice Emerald. Huh? Fruit halwa is good. It is only good to smell, but pockets become empty there. Too costly. I don't know. I mean, that's why maybe the brand value of organic products is so high. Yeah, let's get back SHGs. Mithai versus SHG. Mithai versus Emerald. Now what is happening is, when you look at this SHG, they'll know about the market, or they'll know about the kinds of demand that is present only in their village. Because of localized presence, they'll know only what is happening and what is the demand there. But when you talk about your Emerald, although they are present in, say, near Indira Park, but they'll have a market intelligence about Banjara Hills. Yes. Now that is because of their empowerment with respect to the information, with respect to the data availability. Now when you look at the SHG, the inherent drawback is lack of literacy. I'm not only talking about financial literacy, I'm talking about physical literacy. Your basic education. The absence of basic education or high levels of rural illiteracy, don't you think it results in information asymmetry or market intelligence? Yes. So that is also one of the issues. What are the solutions? Formalization is, I cannot say formalization. Say networking.
Create conclaves of sorts.
Kind of things. Now Andhra Pradesh has a very strong SHG mechanism. Very strong SHG mechanism, and SHG is considered as a model for poverty alleviation. It has a very strong SHG mechanism and it is considered as a mechanism for poverty alleviation. Right? Now financial literacy, you can bring in certain banking correspondents or literacy ambassadors or certain awareness or literacy campaigns or SHG bank linkages. Now when it comes to conflicts, again confidence building mechanism. Now when it comes to patriarchy, it is behavioral or attitudinal change. Behavioral change or attitudinal change. Then market intelligence. Imbibing of digital technology or enhancing digital literacy.
So what is LA the
Hmm?
Banking correspondence.
Literacy awareness campaigns. Ambassadors, literacy ambassadors, banking correspondents, literacy correspondents and literacy ambassadors. A kind of training mechanism, a kind of hand-holding mechanism, a kind of hand-holding mechanism with respect to SHGs. See, in your issues also add access to credit. Access to institutionalized credit is one of the issues. Because the banks as an institution believe that your SHGs are a major source of non-performing assets. Their credit ratings or their repaying capacities are comparatively lower. And when it comes to the economic model of SHG, it is highly volatile model. Is this clear? This is all about?
Can we also bring the legalization within the SHG?
No.
Like at least some time period they must pool the funds. They must not take out the funds.
See, when you start restricting mechanism like SHG, then the whole purpose of SHG is defeated. The inherent advantage of SHG is flexibility. Whoever wants can come in, whoever wants they can join, whatever objectives they'll somehow converge and realize or try to realize whatever objective they're working for. Now when you start bringing in the process of legalization or certain legal hindrances, they say, "Arey babu talno pira, let's move back." The inherent advantage of SHG is because of its flexible structure. Or because of its non-bureaucratized structure. Right?
How do conflicts emerge actually?
How do conflicts emerge? See, when they are joining initially, they would have certain objectives. But as the things pass by, as they manifest, it is similar to your joint ventures. Why do partners divide?
Because of maybe profits or
Certain mismatch in interests. Same thing. And generally with respect to SHGs, the practical observation is that these conflicts are mostly familial in nature. Family conflicts. Because all of them will have some or the other social relation. Now, when you have some or the other social relation over the period of time, if there is any kind of strain in their relations, conflicts. Is this clear? Is this clear? So, I think we have covered major sections of governance, at least a broader idea. Yes?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Now we have NGOs, civil services, role of civil services. I think we can take 10 minutes break. We are in a comfortable time. We can take 10 minutes break. Then we can start off NGOs. Now once I tell you NGOs, civil services is very similar.